Hello, I'm a student from LaGuardia Community College in Queens, New York, in the United States. How many of you are aware that in the world with so much advancement, young people are still unable to get an education? When I was young, my family had a monetary struggle to send me to school, so I know how it is. Now, as we have heard on the news, female children in Afghanistan are terrorized and prevented from going to school. Just that Malala was prevented to the point of being shot in the head. I was outraged on how much lack of consideration and knowledge the Taliban has. World governments must realize education for all citizens. Let me begin with the urgent problems. One major problem is that receiving an education is politicalized under barbaric old gender biases. I watched on YouTube channel about Malala, who was a young girl at the time, talking about being under fire by the Taliban in Afghanistan for going to school. Education needs a reform because it is the year 2020 and is modernized. It is the future. The article of UNESCO called the Universal Declaration of Human Rights affirms that education is a fundamental human right for everyone. This is logic to the nature of what is being human, and also as can we see in nature itself. This right was further detailed in the Convention Against Discrimination in Education. UNESCO also states that education is one of the most powerful tools in lifting social excluded children and adults out of poverty in society. Education and equal rights must be seen as education reform in all countries for all genders and economic classes. As Malala states in her speech of October 18, 2021, but it is not only an issue for individual rights. Girls' education is a powerful tool for building peace and security, and I urge the School Security Council to recognize it as such. Let me explain to my solution. The United States and world governments within the organization must unite against countries that terrorize their citizens, especially female ones. The first step will be to economically sanction Afghanistan and countries preventing or hindering females to go back to school or to teach in schools. The Taliban must be held accountable for the barbaric crimes against females. Necessary economic sanctions must cause them to stop. Another step for the United Nations to gather support of televised panels of crisis not only in Afghanistan but also in African countries and all over the world that are in the same situation. Television programs hosted in global political and entertainment stars could also address economic disparities, even within the United States, that prevent poor children from receiving an adequate education. In the case of girls and women's rights, these programs could highlight the values of contributions young girls would eventually make to their countries and the world if educated. Girls could grow up to be scientists, mathematicians, astronauts, doctors, politicians, or other high-level positions. My solution would be to include teaching trades for girls. For example, agricultural trades, electrical, electronic, farming, and driving trades could be taught. The Taliban and other oppressive regimens must be taught that in the 21st century, educated girls can not only add to a country's economy, but also in a household just as educated boys do when they are adults. Outdated traditions that now lead to unspeakable acts of violence against women must be taught throughout the world, just as basic medicine is taught throughout the world. One example is the progress of presented on a YouTube video, Uganda School of Life, Education Out of Poverty, Rebel Education. That explains how everyone has the right to an education and how it also gears the children to learn things having to deal with their daily lives, like farming. I would like you to imagine the title of the United Nations goal number 4, education for all becoming a reality. Visualize youth regardless of gender or economy. Class having the human rights to an education as an equal freedom among world citizens. Think about how music and other arts and entrepreneurs could hold world televised concerts and events to raise money to make dreams for educative reforms and freedom possible. In closing, we as college students need to take a stand to force world governments, just as young activists are going with climate justice. The world also needs to educate justice as a human right. I encourage you to become involved in global reform of education for everyone. Thank you.